My journey began when my son's father and I separated in February 2013. My little family and I were evicted in April 2013. We had to move from Manhattan to the Bronx. I was hired at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in June 2013. My son was 3 years old at the time. My maternal grandmother died July 2013, 1 month into me being on the job. Thanks to the job, I was able to move back to Manhattan. I was living in a room in an apartment. My son was 4 in this picture. I made a year into the job. I became a part of work community for the first time in my life. I had to work overtime to make ends meet at a job. I also had a pension and steady health insurance. I learned about the joy of retiring from a job after many years of work and how the community comes together to plan the party. I began this year with my first on-the-job injury. I recovered from this injury and I kept on working. My son turned 5 and he graduated from kindergarten. I took him to visit my job. Near the end of the year, I was hit by a car. It changed the way I worked my job. I worked the union elections for the first and only time. We left Manhattan as a living space, moved to the Bronx. Thank God for my job, I managed to stay working in Manhattan. Finally managed to get my own apartment in the Bronx in 2017. My son passes the first grade and goes into the second grade. Finally got that nose surgery that I needed since 2015. I became the union shop steward for the Cloisters branch. I managed work along with physical therapy sessions. The pain from the accident was affecting my work. This year that I got back into doing film work after 10 years of inactivity. March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization characterized the outbreak as a pandemic. March 15, 2020, states began to implement shutdowns in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The museum was closed for 6 months due to the pandemic. Parents and children had to do remote learning via Google Classroom until September 2020. Mask wearing became the norm in public spaces. The museum had to conform to a new way allowing visitors. A walking path system for visitors was implemented until 2021. My documentary that I started in 2018 finally hit the film festivals in 2020. Museum staff were in this documentary. 2 film festivals screened the film. I was grateful. Life and work during COVID was difficult to endure. Thanks to my job, I felt encouraged to do more media content. I launched a YouTube channel and I started a television show in 2021. The museum struggled to get back to pre-pandemic numbers. The museum had to be closed 2 days a week, which impacted the staff scheduling. Masking in public spaces, COVID testing, and vaccinations were enforced this year. My son graduated 5th grade. He got into a middle school in Manhattan. We moved from the Bronx to Manhattan for my son's education. The museum had to impose a vaccine mandate September 2021, which caused a substantial staff loss for the Met as a whole. The museum raised the admission in order to recover the financial loss from the pandemic. I had a milestone birthday. I turned 40. The museum still hadn't overcome the staff loss. My TV show grew from 1 channel to 2 channels in the Bronx and Manhattan. I started doing open mic comedy as an outlet. I did a fundraiser for autism awareness in 2022 with comedians. While the public started to come back to the museum, the staff began to create opportunities to engage more interactions. I was content with my living situation. My son was in middle school. The union staff was waiting for a contract renewal since 2020. It was still pending. The union staff signed a new contract between the museum and the local. The visitors began to return with more frequency to the museum. The pay as you wish was now for New Yorkers, no longer for everyone as before the pandemic. Now I made 10 years at the museum. Now I am a senior employee with a full pension. I became union delegate to DC 37 via local 1503. The staff initiatives such as potluck, core value meetings to help bridge the divide amongst the museum departments. Thanks to my job flexibility at the museum, I am able to engage in media work such as my television show, open mics, podcasts, and live events. Museum staff grow, changes, flexes, but doesn't break. We have celebrated retirements, holiday parties, even a baby shower. Thanks to my job flexibility at the museum, I have been able to make sure that my son grows and pushes forward. Every day may not be sunshine and flowers at the museum. With visitors, the art will always be the topic of conversation. When I started working at the museum, he was 3 and in pre-K. Now 11 years later, he is 14 and he is going to high school. Thank you to the Met Museum of Art for the 11 years here and counting. Thanks for watching 11 years here. This is me recounting my 11 years at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I've had my ups and downs. I've survived the pandemic, blizzard, flood, rude customers, and taken training. And what I have learned is that sometimes the customer is always right at the end of the day, and it is still a job. So that's what I've learned on 11 years here. Life is like a camera. Focus on what's important, capture the good times, and if things don't work out, just take another shot. Saeed Abdel Noor.